I get together with thought leaders and we talk about the trends that are happening in the world, and we think of life from a mind, body, and spirit perspective, because that's what servant leaders do. So join me. Well, greetings, Mel. How are you today?
I'm blessed. Happy to be here.
Very good. Well, greetings, folks. This is Mike Rochelle. I'm here with Mal Smith, and we're on the Growing the Next Version of You show. Mal and I have been talking about doing this for a while. We actually had one bad weather day that we went ahead and passed on. I think it was right before all the freezing happened and all that kind of stuff. So it's really great to have you here in Highland Village in my home and to have a conversation. I've purposefully not read your bio and not kind of gone into all the stuff that you sent me, because I want this to be an authentic conversation between you and I. And the whole purpose is really just to get to know you as an individual and as a leader, where you come from. And I guess one of the things that's maybe a little unique, it's a mind, body, spirit show. So I'm going to ask you to go to the spirit side too. Doesn't have to be right away. It's just whenever the spirit moves us. So what are your thoughts regarding the next year or so, as far as what your tips for our viewers are for the next 3 years? Any recommendations that you've been talking to customers about, maybe?
Yeah. So 3 tips for 2023. As far as again in our industry, you want to make sure that you are managing indoor air quality. Mm-hmm. That's a huge trend. Mm-hmm. If you're only cleaning, surfaces in your facility, then you're remiss. You're not taking care of the whole job, and so you're being negligent.
Sure.
And secondly, I'd say viewing cleaning facility hygiene from a infection prevention stance, as opposed to just cleaning, again, for aesthetics, cleaning for looks. We really want to get to the heart of the matter and be proactive about mitigating the germs and bacteria that can cause individuals to get sick and be transmitted in facilities.
Okay.
And thirdly, I'd say validation, proof of facility hygiene. It's not enough to just say that it's clean enough, and especially since what we are addressing is an invisible threat.
Right.
And so people deserve proof. It's something that our industry has done poorly thus far. It's really just been good faith and take your word for it. But again, the pandemic has shed light on that. It's much needed light, and it has opened the doors for much needed change in the industry, because we can do a lot better.
Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and define the industry, because my viewers may not know which industry you're talking about. Right. So what do you call your industry, and what do you focus on?
So we are in the cleaning industry, and that's very broad. So sure. to narrow that down, we do commercial cleaning. The markets we serve, some of our vertical sweet spots are medical, childcare, office, co-working, mixed-use facilities. Those are our primary ideal client profiles.
Right.
What we do is, it's needed in every industry, so it can definitely be considered vertical agnostic.
Sure.
However, as we are a startup, we have to pick our focus.
Sure.
And niches make riches, right? So And me being a visionary, I have to be very careful to give myself guardrails so I don't just stay ideating and not implementing and finishing.
Sure.
So yeah, those are the primary industries that we're serving.
Okay.
But wherever there's a need, I love a challenge. I love interesting projects. So we're working on a project. We're finishing up a project at a private air hangar out at Love Field right now, where we just finished doing a case study to validate the efficacy of an air disinfection and decontaminating system in their facility. And so, yeah, those kind of conversations are kind of that really get us excited, at Victory Lab. And, we're hoping to really, those are the opportunities for us to really have impact and make change.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So Robert Hunt was actually one of the ones that gave me the feedback to ask questions to get the guests going immediately in the show, because I had a tendency in my season 1 to read bios and things like that, and you guys weren't speaking as much. So thank you for your introduction on the industry. We'll get back to that at the end of our talk today. But like I said, this is a leadership development show, and I'm looking at it from a mind, body, spirit perspective. So what I'd like you to do is go back. I know you just recently published a picture of you with your passion at 8 years old. But before that, where did you grow up? What is your background? Where did you go to church? Those kinds of things.
Before I was the ripe old age of 8, I was born in Amarillo, Texas. So, I'm Texan at heart.
Okay.
I was raised in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Between here and there, my father stayed here in the DFW area, and my mother in Tulsa. And so I mostly grew up there. But, this is like a second home to me.
Sure.
And then as I entered into adulthood, I moved here. But yeah, I was raised, my mother is a God-fearing woman, raised me in the fear of the Lord. So that's the greatest gift besides life, that's the greatest gift that she gave me. I always had, this affinity for vacuum cleaners and cleaning machines, but specifically vacuum cleaners. And it was like borderline obsession when I was like, before I could talk hardly, and so, by the time I was 4 or 5, I would get these, I would have them take me to vacuum stores, like that was my idea of a good time, let's go to the vacuum shop. And, and people, they became familiar with me, the adults in my life, they knew that's what I was into. And so, I would collect vacuums, they'd give me their broken vacuums, and I would disassemble them and reassemble them and invent new ones. And that was just my thing. And and I also had asthma really, really bad. For majority, until I was about 17 when I grew out of it. And so I spent a lot of time in the hospital as a child as well. That comes back a bit later in the story, but so I would spend a lot of time like creating, inventing, and by the time I was 8, I figured, I need to start a business doing this. I was creating, experimenting with different chemical solutions and figuring out ways to dry carpets faster and things like that. And so none of this seems strange or anything to me, right? And because I don't have anything to compare it to. It's just me doing what I'm passionate about. And my mother didn't make me feel strange about it at all. She encouraged me. She was helpful. She never discouraged me or made it seem like, that's not something that a kid should do.
Right.
And so, it was kind of impractical when I asked her to buy me this, $500 carpet cleaner. She's a single mother raising 2 children, and this is what I want for Christmas. But me being, in retrospect, being an entrepreneur, I started at the top of the year, with my business plan. So I pitched her, and I had my
your first Shark Tank.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. And and I was persistent, and so she took that opportunity to make it an even more teachable moment. And that was really, for me, one of my first lessons on faith. And so, from the beginning of that year, I was asking for it as a Christmas gift. I knew that, I had some sense of the impracticality of
annual campaign.
Right. Yeah. So I had a plan, and I stayed consistent. And so she leveraged that. And, I was tithing. I was doing offering. I was planting seeds of faith and standing on the word and believing for what I wanted. So, again, in retrospect, the value of that was through the roof. For me to learn that in third grade.
Right.
And so, Christmas came and she figured out a way to make it happen for me. I still don't know how she did that, and I'm so grateful that she did. You seen the pictures, so that's where the pictures from. Right. Those are the pictures from that Christmas when I got my first carpet cleaner, and I went into business shortly thereafter, and I was fairly successful. I did not realize what I had.
Yeah.
And my mother being a single mom, it was, it just. She's wearing so many hats. I feel like that one almost kind of slipped under the radar.
Yeah.
There was some maybe prodigal propensity there, right? If it had been cultivated a bit more, but resources are thin when one person's doing everything, and so I kind of let that teeter out when I was in middle school, and wear a few other hats along the way. I actually, I got in a little trouble when I was fresh out of high school, and that's a different tangent. We'll probably have that entire conversation a different day.
Sure.
But
this is still Tulsa?
Yeah, and this is still Tulsa.
Okay.
I went to college when I graduated high school. I went to college for a while.
Where'd you go?
I just went to community college, Tulsa Community College.
Sure.
Wasn't really a fit for me at that time. I wasn't ready. And, I went out and kind of, lived and experienced life for a while, and came full circle to starting another business. After again wearing several hats, being and trying to figure who I was, I realized that I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and that's was going to be the only way that I was going to be able to compensate for the gap. Okay, so this is good. I don't know. You'll get to edit. So I can't skip the details. I became a father at 20, and so that definitely was life changing.
Well, that changes your life for sure.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I become a father at 20. Things become a lot more serious. I need to work. I need to provide. And, minimum wage just was not going to do it. And I couldn't see any viable path within anyone's organization to an income that would give me the quality of life that I wanted, for myself and my daughter. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be, like uber exuberant, but, I definitely wasn't going to be able to do it on a minimum wage or, anything teens. And so I knew I had to go back into business for myself. And so that's what I did. And what I do, I started another cleaning business. This was a commercial cleaning business. It wasn't a carpet cleaning business, janitorial services. And it was called Grime Getters Clean Team. Started that in Tulsa. Fairly successful. Definitely paid the bills. I'll never forget, as we were growing, I had 2 jobs jeopardized within 1 week by employees that I brought on. And I had to go out and redo them myself. And so it just, it shook me. And I made a decision in that moment to not scale the business beyond anything that I wanted to be able to touch every moving part myself if I had to. Like, if I need to, I'll just go deliver the whole job myself. That was my solution, at that time. And, my income was enough that I was living the lifestyle that I wanted, for my daughter and I. And so I just kind of capped it out there and never went back to growing. I never moved into the delegation portion where I could have scaled beyond that and maybe use that business as a vehicle to help so many more people.
Right.
No, it's a bit it's not linear at all, kind of all over the place. But so after that experience, I decided to keep my business again where I could manage it, and I achieved that. So my success plateaued there, and my brain starts to get thirsty as it does, and so I decided to pivot, and I've been doing this. At this point, I've been doing it for about 4 years, and in retrospect, it's because I wasn't introducing new challenges that I got. My brain got thirsty, and so I decided to go back to college. And I went to school for computer science, took a computer science course with the community college, and decided to go for emphasis in network engineering. And my thought process at that point was, I'm tired of wearing all the hats. Entrepreneur it out.
Take a job.
I will take a job. Like, I just want to do my job really well for someone else's organization and just worry about clocking in, doing my job, and clocking out. And when I leave, the work's done. Being entrepreneurs, it never goes. You don't get that. Yeah. And so I very much wanted that. And I finished the course. Got involved with Cisco and their networking academy, excelled at that, and ended up, as a result of that, being tapped to participate in a program they have called their Dream Team, and that was awesome. That really was an eye-opening opportunity. I met the CEO of Cisco, Chuck Robbins, and several just impactful leaders, and that was, for me, it kind of was piquing the interest again, my entrepreneurial interest, which was not the intention, but you cannot shake this entrepreneur's disease, or addiction rather. And so, I'm still keeping it within the purview. I got to get my job, get a job within the industry, and I need to master it. This is my, I knew that I wasn't ever going to be able to fully leave entrepreneurship alone. So my thoughts were, I'll get into this industry and I'll spend enough time and master it, and then I'll leverage that mastery into a new business within this industry. A decade from now, I'll be, by then I'll probably have my full fill of corporate and be ready to step out on my own. I had told myself, though, that cleaning, I'm putting this in a neat box, and I know it's my baby, my whole lot, but I don't want to clean anymore right now. Like I'm done with it. Putting this in the box, we're pushing it under here. And I thought I was even being honest with myself in that, saying, well, I'm not saying it's done forever, but if I do ever get back into it, it'll be like from an investment aspect, or maybe my portfolio get to a certain point, I'll maybe invest in a franchise or something like that. Well, God has different plans, many of the plans of our hearts, but we know where the answer comes from. And so, I landed a position. I transitioned back down to Dallas after finishing up the course because it's a far more competitive market for technology. Now I have, most of my family is here. That's another, my family is here. It's only my mother and my daughter and I up in Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And so, I get a job here for a great company, and work my way up. Tier 2 engineer, and my boss, he wasn't my boss at the time, but he had hired me. The individual who hired me there, he gives me he calls me randomly, and he's like, "Didn't you have a cleaning business, or didn't you do something like that?" And I'm like, "Yeah. Why are you asking? What do you want to know?" And he's like, just wondering. And we kind of just left it there. And fast forward a bit from there, his son had gotten really sick, and it's my brother, now. So his son had gotten really sick at due to inadequacies in hygiene at their child care facility. And his wife was ready to get back into the workforce, and so going through that whole, it's hard. It's a challenge as it is finding someone to trust with your child. And then there's that's just inevitably they're gonna get sick when they're introduced to that environment with all those other children. But there was an attitude in the industry. There is an attitude in the industry is just almost to accept it as status quo. Mm-hmm. And they just there's nothing you can do about it. And so it just is what it is. But it resulted at that time in my nephew being hospitalized. At 1 year, at a year old. And so that was traumatic for the whole family. Right. And so after that, my brother, he approached me and he said, "Hey, we got to do something about this. Like, there's got to be a better way. They're not doing it right. I know this is your obsession. The whole family, everybody knows this is it's my obsession. You're gonna dust off those skills and see if you can't fix this. And it doesn't take much to get the gears going. Sure. I'm a visionary. I'm a idea person, and so that got the gears going, and that was around September of 20. Goodness, the pandemic happened. Was that
2020 or 2019?
2019.
Right before it happened.
Wow, it's been so long. Yeah, so that was 2019. That was about September 2019. And here we are. Here I am. Get to developing and which is the fun part for me, the ideas and kind of visualizing this concept and how it can work, and visualizing the concept for, again, cleaning for health as opposed to cleaning for looking clean. Right. And seeing how we can quantify that impact. And then fast forward 6 months, and it's March, and the pandemic happens. Right. And suddenly something I'm thinking is going to be, kind of niche, very geared towards, childcare, is valid everywhere. Yeah. And again, it has been valid everywhere, but it's really relevant, and the market's they're like the news has become a giant commercial for this vision that God has put in my heart.
Right.
And so from there, it kind of one thing just led to another, and here we are today. But I definitely knew then that I had to, here I am back, doing this entrepreneurial journey a little sooner than I expected.
Right.
And in the industry that I've been in literally my whole life. But I'm using all of the skills.
Right.
Like this project, this vision, it calls for everything that I've been accumulating
right
throughout my life.
So the focus, the newer focus on computer science, then gave you the ability to think about analytics and how to actually measure the impact of the cleaning rather than just let it happen and then that's it. So how do you go about doing that? What is the secret sauce that allows you to be able to claim this when others aren't even thinking about it?
So what we do is a lot of technology we use, it already exists or has been used in other industries or in our industry, but for different purposes. And so we've kind of exapted these different existing technologies, and I've developed an aggregation kind of dashboard that delivers this vital information in a way that's easily consumable to the layperson, to the average person who's not a microbiologist or a data scientist.
So this could be on a screen in a doctor's office where they can show the people that are their customer or their patients what they're doing and how it's impacting them for the good.
Exactly.
Giving them comfort that not only is this place clean, but the air is clean too.
Exactly that.
Okay.
And
which it does sound valuable. I mean, I don't like going to the doctor. I really don't like going to the emergency room.
Yeah, that's where the sickest people are. And
exactly.
And HAIs, which is healthcare associated infections, are a big deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, it costs lives.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Like we talk about, we're so used to talking ROI in business, but when we're talking infection prevention, the ROI is life saved. Mm-hmm. That's the return on investment, which sometimes can be hard to quantify. But how can you put a price on somebody's life or on the health of your employees or patients or your visitors, your customers?
Right.
But yeah, the like I said, the computer science component definitely played into that, and that's been another. My life of technology has just been something that I love. Yeah, I've got notebooks full of designs and robot designs and things from when I was a kid, and so you don't know, that who you're gonna be is who you were the whole time.
Right.
For me, that's where I'm at now. It's like I've come full circle. I tried on a few hats, a few masks, and it's easier to just be me.
Very cool. So, did you and I meet at the Plano Entrepreneurs Group, or did you just happen to be going there too? Because I'm trying to think of how we came together. Was it from LinkedIn or?
I think we met on. I believe we met on LinkedIn, and then you invited me to ABTP,
right?
And that jump started off our relationship.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So, from a leadership perspective, the ability to move beyond oneself and to scale into a larger organization. That is the entrepreneur's dilemma, right? And not all of them can make it. So have you decided that is the path that you're going to take this time, so that you don't limit the production capability that you ran into the last time you did this?
Absolutely. Definitely have, uh, plans for how a roadmap in place for how we're going to scale.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're EOS house, EOS Fanatics, which normally EOS is for larger organizations larger than ours to adapt.
And what is EOS?
Or adopt entrepreneurial operating system.
Okay.
But we've adopted it. One of my advisors is an implementer, and I love EOS. I love the principles, and when I got a hold of that philosophy, it shed a lot of light on some of the hardships I was experiencing as a founder in that moment, and it gave me clarity through the understanding of knowing yourself, and by knowing your strengths and weaknesses.
Right.
It removes a sense of maybe guilt, or
right.
maybe like a need. It seems like there is a need to assign blame prior to that.
Right.
And then after that, it frees you, because you realize that most of the things that are wrong are it's because you're not supposed to be doing that job. Right people, right seats.
Right.
Who, not how.
Right.
And so that's immensely freeing for me, because it's not my fault.
Right.
That I don't like this, and it's not bad that I don't like to do this. I just don't like to do this.
Find somebody that loves doing that.
And there's somebody that loves it. Yes. And so let me run
like accounting, right?
Not my thing. And so
I love people that love accounting.
I love it.
I don't, and they can have it.
Yes.
All day long.
Yes. Totally that. Yeah. So.
Okay. So it's a capabilities model. Is that the way to think of EOS, where it says these are all the different things that a small business has to do, and then devising strategies for getting those resources, regardless of whether you're the one that's providing it? Is that the way to think of it?
EOS sets out a structure, so they've got what they call the vision traction organizer, and so it's about clarity of that of vision, and then making sure that you have the right people in the right seats in your org chart, which is critical. Or otherwise you find yourself in that phenomenon which I was discussing, where there are problems and you feel like blame is needing to be assigned, but when really you just have the wrong people in the wrong seats.
Sure.
And that individual may be a lot better if you give them something that they are good at to do.
Right.
And things may go a lot smoother if you get out of the way and let go and let somebody else do what they're good at doing.
Right.
So I mean, I'm being very high level with the with the outline of it, but and then it breaks it down, of course, into your 3-year goals, and then your year goals and your rocks, and then it's a meeting structure. So it brings that continuity, and everybody is able to take ownership of their purview.
Sure.
And then we're all accountable to each other, by the meetings, and you get to see real progress. It just makes it really transparent. It's almost like, making a dashboard for your business.
Sure. So fast forward from the talk earlier. How old's your daughter now? What's she up to? How's she keeping you busy?
She is 13 now.
Oh, wow.
And she keeps me very busy. Actually, we're in the process of transferring down from Tulsa to Texas permanently for her, and so that's been great. And she's a part of the special needs community, and so working on making sure that we have that we're already cultivating that community, a warm reception for her when she gets here. So we have those extracurriculars built out as well. And yeah, so that's a big thing that we're doing this year. That's a big goal for this year.
And you're finding the support that you need here. And
yeah, I am.
And is McKinney home for you?
Actually, we are in Rockwall.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, Rockwall,
which is even further away.
Yeah, from here. Yeah, but they have a great program. Garland ISD has a really good special needs programs.
Okay.
One of the best in the state.
Awesome.
Superintendent was very intentional about that, and yeah, I'm really excited about that. So that's how she's got me busy. That's one of the ways she's got me busy. She's not alone. She has several little brothers now. So I have 4 boys after her, and so yeah, she's the princess, and she owns that role.
Very good.
Yeah.
How old are the boys?
Well, I have one that'll be 2 here in a couple of weeks. A 3-year-old, a 7-year-old, and an 11-year-old.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you have a full deck.
Yes, a full deck. Never a dull moment.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Well, I just have 3. I'm an underachiever. So. Look at you.
You added one. You replaced you and her, and you guys made a contribution.
Yeah, exactly. It's us plus plus one. Okay. Did you see the interview that I did with Richard Miles?
I did.
Okay. So have you met him yet?
I haven't had the pleasure.
Okay. So we're gonna make that happen, because if you're thinking about utilizing that community, he is already plugged in quite well. And utilize, has services that his organization provides, but I'm sure he's always looking for other people that have viable paths forward, because not everybody wants to do yard work. Right. They can do cleaning, and that's actually something that they could set themselves up for their own business. Absolutely. Or grow into running a franchise or something for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, and I'm glad you touched on that.
Well, I knew
that's the vision. Yeah, that's the vision, and that's why that's very intentional. Why that's the vision for me. It's not the financial aspect of it. It's the using that vehicle to empower entrepreneurship and being able to give that gift to other families.
Right.
That's why franchising is important to me.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm not like a glutton for material, and so I like nice things, but I can cover our Maslow's, my family's, fairly, we don't need that much revenue. So definitely thinking franchising for that purpose.
So I'm looking for, I cannot remember her name off the top of my head.
Roxanne?
Yeah. So you're already connected with her.
Yes.
So Roxanne is the quintessential franchisee person in the Metroplex. So you're already connected. That's great. Very good. So that's good. So once you have the model viable, proven, and moving forward, then you can scale it not only for your own company but for franchisees, and then become a franchisor.
Yes.
Good.
I'm very excited about that.
Good. So is that the long-term plan, so that you're then not running business anymore, but providing platform for others? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, man.
It's like
I have to go with big picture. It's almost, I gotta be careful with my audience when I go big picture. I don't want to discredit myself. You're gonna be like, this guy's pie in the sky. But no, absolutely, that's a part of the vision for the future is that
Okay.
but you touch on something that's really important to me as well, and it goes with the who, not how.
Right.
And it's, right now, I'm doing 20-hour days,
Right.
like more days of the week than not.
Right.
And I accepted that,
Sure.
for this season of growth and of my life. This is a sacrifice that I'm making.
Right.
But that's definitely not what I'm planning for. That's not what I'm building for.
Yeah.
And I'm very intentional about that.
Definitely.
I am building this to be something that I could walk away from. If I want to go on a 3-month vacation, then I can, and everything will still be functioning.
Right.
And so that's where the EOS is very important.
Nice.
And having the processes and systems in place, and building that way from the beginning, which is also the same things that you have to do to build a successful franchise. So all these things go together. All these roads lead to Rome that way.
Very cool. So then with the franchisee, setting up vendor relationships that also scale,
Yes.
as you're setting up your purchases of equipment for yourself and those kinds of things.
Yes.
Very good.
That's mine.
So I stopped you for a second because we got to the Richard Miles thing, but you were kind of you were going somewhere. Did we continue that, or do we need to go back to that?
We said, creative visions
for others, though, for people that are coming out of prison that have limited opportunities,
right? About
how they're going to reintegrate into society,
right? And so I think what brought us to that was the really, as far as my ideas for creativity going forward, is using the business that I'm creating to create opportunities for others,
right?
To change their lives,
right.
and to change, if you make one person an entrepreneur, then you change the trajectory of their whole family,
right?
And so
well, for generations,
literally, yeah.
That's the thing that Richard's vision is so powerful for me. My family were sharecroppers just 3 generations ago, so it's not that far from slavery,
right?
There are obviously differences, but still, it was not necessarily a path that was gonna provide for the family over time. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, so I like that big vision because that gives you impetus, and it also helps to enlist investors of like mind, right? Because I'm sure that's part of your part of the struggle with being a small business, is finding those that can not only come alongside from a utilization of your services perspective, but potentially investors that could help you to accelerate the franchise model or whatever.
Yeah, that's definitely it can be very frustrating.
Yeah. So from a life learning perspective, are there any other lessons that you wanted to share with the folks, or are you ready to end this conversation for now and then get ready for the next one?
I'd say just really what this is about, though. The new version, the next version of you. So say growing the next version of you. Yeah. You might want to look to. You can't look anywhere but inside.
Right.
Like I touched on earlier, I think I really love that this show is called "Growing the Next Version of You," because I think what I found, I think most people will probably find when you do find who you truly are, you probably realize that this is who I've always been.
Right.
Before I started.
It's like coming home.
Put the mask on. It's a homecoming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The other beautiful thing about it is that as you continue going in, if you're a believer, which I know you are, then you're also getting closer to God in you.
Yes.
Right.
Find God in there.
So there's a part of the fact that you are living the best version of you every day and growing and learning, right? And then becoming. And that whole becoming part is the thing that is most important to me, right? Because it's not the mistakes that you made yesterday. It's the focus that you have on correcting the mistakes and then moving forward with energy and with passion and with resolve. And what else could you have if you're connecting to who God has made you to be, right? So it's a beautiful cycle that never ends.
Yeah.
And I think it might not ever end, period.
Yes.
Right? Even when we can see him as he is, we're still not going to know everything, right? We'll still have to be learning.
Constant relationship.
Exactly.
I love that. I like to say I am is here, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I say it to myself all the time.
Yeah.
And maybe like a month ago I was thinking, you know, I am is here. Then it just kind of kept echoing, and I was like, you know, I am a sphere, you know, like what? And I was like, well, what are you storing in your I am a sphere? You know, what are you keeping? Because that matters. What are the I ams that you store in your I am a sphere?
Right.
You know, I believe we're storing some I ams that we're not aware of, and then, you know, are you storing safe or healthy I ams, or are you trying to protect yourself with the I ams that you're storing in there? And I guess your I am sphere will be your heart, but I am is here. That is where you will find I am, is in your heart. If you go, like you said, on that journey deep enough. And especially, you know, being a believer.
Yeah.
So I made the conscious decision to allow the Holy Spirit, you know, to take refuge and allow Jesus in.
Right.
To take refuge in my heart.
Right.
And I can trust my heart because I trust.
Because it's his heart.
Because it's his heart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
The
this show, I have some followers, right? But not a tremendous number. So this is kind of my gift to the world kind of conversations, because these are rare. You know, it's rare that two men will sit down and talk about God in us in this way, right? But it's a powerful thing, right? And I want to continue to stoke it and to engage it. You know, we're going to meet a couple other people tonight at the fire pit, and continue this spirit of discovery of I am.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is that I have just recently learned, Austin Armstrong was the last gentleman that I had on the show just last week. And he has 2 million followers on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. So I've been learning how to do certain things from him. So these 60-second videos that I'm doing every day, my viewership on Facebook has gone explosive. But it's Christians from Pakistan and Kenya.
Interesting.
Primarily, right? So while I'm trying to be a blessing to the world by having these conversations about character and about the things that we're talking about, I'm getting prayers from people that I never knew before who are encouraging me. Right? So it's like this endless cycle. So when you are in his will and you are becoming who he wants you to be, then the blessings just continue to pile up. The blessings aren't necessarily always financial, right? And frankly, one of the books that I use in class now is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And it basically just says that, you know, if you figure out that business is a game of continuing to play the game, right? And as an entrepreneur, you know what I mean by that, right? It's a cash flow game initially, and then it becomes a capitalization game, and then it becomes a sustainability game. But the game is an ongoing, ever-growing one that you have to respond to and or plan and direct, right? But there's always stuff to respond to.
Such is life.
Yeah, but it's infinite, right? And that's the cool thing about it. And if you think of it from a win-win perspective, where I want everybody that's listening to the show to learn what you just said, right? Or to be enriched by it so that they can say it to somebody else because they've never articulated it in exactly that way. And it's not a head game either. It is a humbling thing, right? To say that I am the temple of the Holy Spirit, right? In I am dwells in me. Okay, well then, am I living up to that on a daily basis, or am I not?
It's what I find, period, in the Bible is, it's this a composition of paradoxes.
Mm-hmm.
And in that tension between the paradoxes is where the good stuff is.
Right.
And so it's like, I think I lost my thought, but.
Well, I'll throw out one paradox so maybe you can think through where you were going with that. So one of the paradoxes for me is that it says that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God in Romans, right? Yet at the same time, there's another scripture that says, be you perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's a paradox, right? But Christ is the answer to the paradox.
Yes.
And in a lot of the paradoxical positions that you find in the Bible, he is the answer.
Yes.
Always has been.
Yes.
Right? Created the answer before time started.
Yes. And that's what prompted that with that. Now you reminded me.
Okay.
Is the humble component.
Right.
I find myself, caught in that this paradox often is that I feel so special that God considers me at all.
Right.
I feel it makes you feel so special.
Yeah.
But again, that's kind of seems antithetical to being one and being super humble and and I am nothing, right? That means you're not special. No struggle have you encountered that's not common to men, right?
Right.
But and you are to remain humble, but at the same time, there's this immense confidence that comes from knowing that God cares. It's humbling and empowering at the same time.
Right.
I was in fellowship and in praying and meditating, and and I got into I was just expressing, your will be done, God. Let your will be done. I'm always trying to, go back and clarify and make sure that I'm not getting too much of me in the way. I want to stay out of the way. So, your will be done. And I heard, Holy Spirit, I heard that, the voice respond to me, our will be done. And it brought tears to my eyes. Because we don't deserve that privilege. I don't, you cannot earn it.
Right. No, it's a gift.
It's a gift.
The Holy Spirit's a gift. Faith is a gift.
It's all grace.
The whole thing is grace.
You cannot earn it. Yeah. And it's so immense. And it's so profound.
Yeah.
And it's so unsearchable.
Right.
The fact that it's all yours.
Right.
Like you have more than you can comprehend.
Right.
And, the gravity of God, telling me, like, what I heard from that, like, we're doing this together. You have some amount, some measure of control in this outcome.
Oh, definitely.
And we definitely do. It's a co-designing, relationship.
Right.
But the beauty of that, that you're even considered in this whole thing. It could just be totally autopilot, but just the beauty of that. And again, so in that moment, going back to what brought me, that was so humbling.
Right.
But so empowering at the same time.
Right.
That's a beautiful paradox. That's what I'm like. The richness just like pours over me. Like it's just like
Definitely.
wow.
So,
wow.
So then, in the moments where things aren't necessarily going your way from a business perspective, and you are struggling with a particular component of capability or individuals in your organization or whatever, it's good to remember those moments, right? Those mountaintop moments where you see so clearly, and then call upon that grace to power you forward and through that situation. So very cool. Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you better today. Look forward to continuing to do so tonight as we go to the fire pit and enjoy some libations and some good food and a fire. It's going to be a little chilly out there tonight, but that's going to be all right. Well, thanks very much for coming out. Until next time, God bless, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, y'all.